And we are live, Pam.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday. It's a Friday Inside AWAI for October, and we're delighted to have you here with us today. Gorgeous day, I hope, where you are. I'm here today with Heather Robson. I'm going to tell you a little about her in a moment, but today's topic is blogging. 3 ways to make money blogging as a freelance writer. And I've been blogging for a long time for clients and for my own freelance business at one point. And then Heather, of course, is a blogger and knows a lot of bloggers. And we're going to talk to you about that. So our agenda today is why blogging is enjoying a resurgence. I mean, it's been around for, 20, 30 years now, but all of a sudden, it's the thing that every client, every company, every website must have to get more traffic. And we'll talk to you about that in detail. But what does this mean for you as a freelance writer? Opportunity is what it means. And then we're going to talk about 3 big ways you can make money blogging. Heather will walk you through some blogging success stories. And then we'll talk about some tips, some top tips for you and how to get started. And then we'll open the floor for Q&A. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Pam. I'm excited to be here.
Great to have you here. We love talking with you. And this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart. So yeah,
I love teaching, and I've done a lot of studying on blogging recently. And it was kind of funny. You said Heather's a blogger, and I was like, well, I don't really have a blog, but I do blog on Wealthy Web Writer every week. Right. So I am a blogger.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter where you blog. If you're blogging, you're a blogger. Can I say the word blog 75 times in one sentence?
I was just thinking, I want that on a t-shirt. It doesn't matter where you blog. If you're blogging, you're a blogger.
Go for it. So Heather, I just want to give you a little background on her in case you don't know her, but she's the managing editor of Wealthy Web Writer, which is an AWAI membership community all about people who want to make money as web writers, online digital marketing writers. So blogging is one part of that, but there are lots of opportunities on the web, including writing for client websites, doing email, anything online pretty much. She also has 20 years of web and content marketing experience. She's a published fiction author, which is fun. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've always wanted to be a writer. Really, I am a copywriter to fund my fiction habit. That's my lifestyle. And I finally came up with a story idea that I really loved. I finished my first novel, I think, in 2011, spent a year editing it. And published it in 2012. And since then, I've published 2 more. I currently am only published in the sci-fi fantasy genre. It is a series. It is not done yet. I'm 3 books into 5.
Wow.
And I self-published on Amazon because I discovered that I'm either really bad or don't have time to send queries to agents.
It was so much fun, though. Excellent. Sci-fi and fantasy. How fun. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that also you're a passionate person about speaking, teaching, and writing about copywriting and content and user experience, which is something that's a fairly huge emerging discipline in making sure the whole experience that a prospect or customer might have with a company through its email and messaging and websites and anything. There's a science and art to making it as seamless and helpful as possible. So you're an expert on that too. And then today, but we're going to focus on blogging. And Heather's also an instructor for several of our programs. And she also put together a blogging program for us, which we'll talk about near the end. So with all of that, we want to kick it off with the big picture about the blogging resurgence. And it's funny because I've been writing blog posts for clients and for a website I used to have for years now. And it always was an important part of the marketing matrix. But for some reason now, some of these statistics will blow your mind. Blogging is huge today because it's where people are looking into possibly buying something. So 84% of internet buyers, that's billions of people, made their buying decision based on information found in a blog. And you might think that's really weird, but if there's a review blog, like, here are the top 5 cameras for those are blog posts. Or here's my take on how to use something. They might walk you through how to use a particular tool. So people are reading those blogs and then going, oh, that sounds like the perfect solution for me. I'm going to go pick that one. And it was all a result of watching a blog post. There might be how-to blogs as far as even just building a deck or making a flower arrangements for your wedding or anything. A lot of people are blogging about this stuff, and then in the blog post, they have links to products and services that people can buy. So that's a huge part of decision making. And then blogs are considered better at influencing purchases than opinions found on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or forums or online magazines. I mean, that's crazy because you hear about YouTube all the time influencing purchases, but apparently blogging is way above that. So it's huge. And companies who realize this have a major advantage. Heather, I don't know if you want to talk about these stats at all, or?
Absolutely. It is amazing what a difference a blog makes for a company. And right now we're seeing kind of a shift in marketing where the most influential people on our marketing decisions are actually people outside of the company. But when it comes to blogging, research does show that people want to see a company have a blog. It helps them get to know the company, and then it also helps them get to know the company's products. And so they are looking for that. And if your company doesn't have a blog, there is a pretty good chance that a lot of people are going to go look for a company that offers similar products that does have a blog that they can explore, because they just gain so much information through that.
Yeah. So speaking of that, blogging has been proven to bring results to companies. You know, first of all, I call it search engine love. But if somebody's typing how to do something or top top products for this solution or whatever, blogs show up in search results if they're good blog posts about that topic. Like I said, people doing reviews of things they've purchased or showing how to use something are really popular. So websites with a blog, ready for this, have 434% more indexed pages in Google and other search engines. That's huge. Mm-hmm. So if you're working with a client, for example, who doesn't have a blog, just show them that statistic. How many more pages of copy that Google would rank you for do you want? I mean, you know, your competition is doing this. You better step up. And then companies that blog get 97% more links to their websites. That's because there's more content to link to, more value. Now, this is an interesting finding. This is a more recent trend, but 2,000 plus word posts. So blog posts with more than 2,000 words are far more likely to have strong results. And that's because if they're done right, they're very informative and helpful and detailed. My favorite story is there's a doctor in North Carolina who shows up on the first page of search results for probiotics. And he was up there with WebMD and Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins, and then this guy. It's like, how did he do that? He had these amazing pillar posts, they call them, that are more than 2,000 words that are full of incredible content for someone who's interested in probiotics, and that's why he's there. So it's a great strategy. US internet users spend 3 times more time on blogs than email. Now, we know email is hot and still incredibly popular. So are blogs, way more even. And then 50% of marketers gain customers through blogging, 57%. So again, wow, lots of proof that blogging is worth the effort. And Heather, if you want to talk about that too.
Absolutely. So the more a company blogs, companies that blog 16 times or more a month, they see exponentially more leads than companies that don't blog, which is why marketers that have blogs are the ones that are gaining customers. They get, like Pam said, so much more traffic, and then that traffic is more likely to convert to leads. And one of the fun things, if you're writing blogs for clients, it naturally puts you in the position to also write emails for clients, because a lot of times we do have a lot of crossover between blogging strategies and email strategies. So even though users are spending more time on blogs, you as a writer can actually increase your scope by understanding the relationship between blogs and email and end up with more work from a client.
And, I'm glad you brought that up, because blogging also supports e-newsletters. So let's say a company puts out a monthly newsletter. Whatever they posted on their blog, they're going to bring into that newsletter too, but then pad the newsletter with other topics and related information. So there are all kinds of jobs that connect to blogging as a writer. So it's pretty cool. Now, this is a company I blogged for quite a while when I was full-time freelancing in the pet and veterinary industry. I still work in there, on a very part-time basis because I'm full-time here at AWAI, but I was blogging for them every month. And this is an example of what it can do. This company, TriStar Vet, put out a very expensive full-color catalog every year and mailed it, and it cost them, tons and tons of money. But once we started blogging about product solutions and solutions that mean something to their prospects, this is what happened. As soon as we publish a blog post, we start getting calls on that particular product almost immediately. So that's pretty amazing, because they have subscribers to the blog. So it's not like only Google will feed it, but also if they have members of their community that subscribe to the blog, they'll get a notice when that blog is published. And this is just something, this company invented a way to cut cleaning time in a vet practice during procedures. It's this rinsey sink awesome thing. So we just wrote about it, and suddenly there was tons of traffic and calls for more information.
Nice.
That's just one example. So let's get into the money. Show me the money. We came up with 3 ways that you can make money as a blogger. Blogging is bucks. So the first one is the one I used the most over the years. I still do a little blogging for a veterinary journal, but I have cut back. But basically, 64% of B2B marketers outsource their blog copywriting. 64%. That means they're looking for help. They don't have in-house staff to do this. So you have an opportunity, and I would say with both B2B and B2C, business to business and business to consumer, because this is just a B2B stat, but it doesn't mean business to consumer companies aren't outsourcing either. They very likely are. 53% of marketers say blogging is their top marketing priority. So more than 50% consider blogging their top marketing priority. So who's going to write that stuff? You. And then 60% of marketers struggle with creating engaging content. But as a freelance writer who is a master at blogging, you're going to help them with that. These are just a few jobs I found on a job board for bloggers. They're everything from sports bloggers to health bloggers to you name it. Every topic is covered in the blogging world. Heather, do you want to chime in on this one?
Sure. Like you said, I think we've reached actual market saturation in the number of companies that are using content and blogging as a strategy. I think it's up, particularly in B2B, above 90% at this point. So when 64% of B2B marketers are outsourcing their blog copywriting, we're not just talking about B2B companies that are using blogs, because pretty much all B2B companies are using blogs. So that is an enormous number. I mean, it means for us as writers, there is room for everybody at the table to make a fantastic living. You literally cannot be crowded out of this market. And blogs are one of the best things about blogs. Other than that, they are just fun to write. When you're writing them for a company, they don't bring you in to write one blog. They bring you in to write their weekly blog. They bring you in to write their monthly blog. And so what that does for you as a writer is gives you an opportunity to be on a retainer arrangement, which builds stability and predictability into your freelancing income, which gives you the opportunity to have a little bit more free time to maybe tackle other projects or to go after dream clients. So it's sometimes people look at blogs and they're like, they don't pay as much as writing a big sales letter. And that's true, but you're going to write one big sales letter and you're going to write, 52 or 104 blogs for a client in the course of a year. They're going to be far easier to write, and you're going to end up making as much, if not way more, than you would on that one sales package for a client.
Yep. And that's a perfect segue into what you can earn writing for clients. Now, when we talk about clients, we're talking about companies that recognize the value of a blog a good blog, and they are looking, they've posted on job boards, they need a blogger who gets it. Not necessarily those lowest bidder websites. We're not talking about that. You want to ignore that, because those low bidder websites will say, well, who can give us these blog posts at the cheapest price? We'll pay $10 a post, just ridiculous, awful things like that. And usually what happens is they get people who aren't really trained in writing blogs the right way. So we have found over the years, through our own personal experience and seeing what other members here are doing, they're getting paid much better rates. So a simple post of no more than 1,000 words might be $250 to $400 a post. Maybe more, depending on how much research. If you're interviewing someone, it all depends, but that's basically the range for a simple post. Longer posts, like we were talking about earlier, about 2,000 words, might be 800 to 1,000 on up. And then there are things called SEO magnets, which are what I would call those pillar posts that have chapters. This example right here on the right is an AWAI SEO magnet, which is all about what is copywriting. It's an essential introduction to the copywriting industry. And as you can see here, it has sections. So that's a big one. That's a lot of work. And companies can pay $3,500 to $5,000 and more. It just depends. But they're called SEO magnets for a reason. The goal is to be the best possible resource out there for someone who's trying to get an answer on something. And if you can help a company become that best possible resource, they will pay you handsomely for it, because all that traffic turns into leads and sales. So Heather, anything you want to jump in on that?
I'm just going to jump in and just kind of zero in on some of these fees and just kind of get you guys thinking big picture. So the more you work for a company writing their blog, the faster that you're going to get at writing a blog. So you're going to end up in a space where writing a 1,000-word blog is probably going to be something that you can achieve in the course of a day or even less. And so if you're doing that for, say, 5 clients, 1 blog a day, and you're doing 1 blog a week for each of those clients, you're already at somewhere around $1,500 to $2,000 a week, just writing blog posts, which is starting to approach a 6-figure income. And so you really can build a great lifestyle from doing this work for clients.
Good. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, that bigger picture. Now, another way, which is something I did, I'll just give you a real quick backstory. In 2009, I launched a website called petcopywriter.com. And I was a freelancer full-time going after the pet industry, which I had some background in the veterinary world. So I used the blog to talk about things that companies in the pet industry need to know. So how do you stand apart from the competition? How do you get Google traffic? How do you deal with the new mobile era? So I would blog about that stuff for the clients I wanted to attract, and it worked. I would get business and leads because somebody would type in pet copywriter or pet video, pet industry video or pet website copy. And I would have blogged about those things. So I would show up and I'd say, hey, how'd you find me? Your blog. Excellent. My plan is working. So this example here is Liz Farr, who is a CPA turned copywriter in the accounting world. And she does a lot of blogging on topics that her client pool or her potential clients would be interested in. So I just, took an example of her screenshot here, but, blog tips, content marketing for accountants. Okay, so it's very specific. So if an accountant is looking for a writer, they will find her because she's blogging steady information that matters to them. So a blog to get that steady pipeline of potential clients for you on your own website, it will showcase your skills, it will build your authority. And believe me, there isn't a lot of clutter in these different niche markets of copywriters who are doing this. So it's very likely they'll find you on page 1 of Google and reach you. It'll increase your traffic and your leads. it'll grow your audience. And then those leads will continually roll in. I am an example of that with petcopywriter.com. I kept it going for 10 years, and then I sold it to a veterinarian who leaped over into copywriting, and now she owns it. And that it still works for her. The blog she posts, traffic starts coming in. So it's a great strategy to keep your business pipeline going as a freelancer. There's not that feast or famine if you've got that steady flow going on.
Absolutely. And it really does just make sense, because remember we were talking about the B2B companies and how much they bring in terms of leads and how many sales they make just from their blog content. Well, you as a freelance copywriter are actually a business to business company. And so this is going to work for you as well.
Yep. So here's an example, petcopywriter.com, which I owned for 10 years. Now Dr. Tammy Powell is in charge of it, but there's a blog on there and it's been going strong. I don't know, there's more than 200 posts or more now over the years. And I think I blog just a couple times a month. And that's all it took, because, you know, how many clients do I want? I'm not 100 a month, you know, I can't do that. So you're going to learn a little bit sooner, a little bit later, I mean, about blogs that get thousands of people, thousands and thousands and thousands of people for traffic. But that's a different strategy. As a freelancer, I only needed to do a couple of posts a month, and I would get quality leads of clients who found those posts. And that means higher fees, because as you get more leads, you can charge more because the demand for your time and your services is growing. You're attracting all kinds of clients. Some are just tire kickers and can't afford you, but some are wonderful mid-sized companies that don't have an in-house blogger, something like that. That's what I generally attracted, which was great, because I would hear from marketing directors from mid-sized companies, and they said, well, we have someone who works on our website, but they're more of a programmer. We really don't have a blogger. We need a blogger. Hello, I'm here. So, and then over time, as you cultivate and grow your client base, you can retire those low payers if they don't move up to paying you more, and then you make room for higher paying clients. Mm-hmm. So that pipeline thing is a great strategy for your business, and all it takes is you writing blog posts. And as a writer, that should be pretty easy to do. So.
Not to mention fun. It is fun to do. And I love that you bring up the point of, you know, you can only handle so many clients, because I think that takes a lot of pressure off of what can you write about in your blog? What should you write about in your blog? I've talked to so many writers who are like, yeah, but if I'm blogging, you know, and I'm telling them how to do something, and you don't have to, you can just tell them why to do something. But even if you're telling them how to do it, you know, the do-it-yourselfers will come in and be super grateful because they'll take what you've taught them and use it for themselves. But if it works, then they may refer other people to you. And really, you know, out of all the people coming to look at your blog, if you're only looking to manage somewhere between 4 and 7 clients at a time, it's okay to kind of give away your knowledge, because some people are going to look at it and say, great, I don't have time to do this. Pam knows her stuff, so I'm going to call Pam. I'm going to have Pam do this. And so you just can freely demonstrate your authority, and it only helps you. It really doesn't hurt you at all.
Yeah, and marketers aren't trying to learn how to write copy.
Exactly.
I mean, they need to find someone who can write copy. And if they see a great blog post by you, they're like, oh, finally, at last, someone who's really good and someone who understands my industry. Which, you know, if you go into a niche industry, that's where you can really stand out and shine with a good blog like that. Like Liz did with her accounting and tax customer blog. So it can be so much fun, because in the sea of generalists, when you're blogging and you're blogging about a certain industry, those industry people who are looking for writers with some knowledge of their market will be like, matchy, that's the person for me. And it's really exciting when that happens. Like, I don't have to teach her about my market. She already knows. I just have to tell her about my products and services and hire her to write about that. Mm-hmm. So super fun. Mm-hmm. All right. The third big way is blog for your own business. Now, as a freelance writer, you might be working for clients, but on the side or in parallel, you might be creating your own website with your own interests and your own business. And I'm showing Coffee Detective here. Nick Usborne, who you may or may not know, is one of our leading digital copywriting teachers here at AWAI. And he's had this little simple coffee fan website for years. And he just keeps posting reviews and tips and all kinds of things and making money from that. As a matter of fact, he can sometimes make a huge amount of money, like $7,000 a month during the holidays, things like that, because he gets so much traffic. He's been doing this for quite a while, but you don't even have to have been doing it for quite a while. If you're resonating with other fans in that market, like we have one who's a tomato grower website. She's doing quite well with her tomato growing website. You know, who knew? Any kind of topic you can think of where other people are interested, raising puppies and whatever. I mean, it's crazy. So if you're writing about a topic that you're interested in, we're going to show you a couple in a minute. One of them blows my mind. Then you're going to attract a following of fans. I happen to know one that's called It's a Lab Thing. And all they talk about is Labrador retrievers all day long. And it's one of the most successful, money-making, unbelievable businesses I've ever seen, just celebrating Labrador retrievers. Crazy. So ways you can make money are selling ebooks, classes, webinars, or mastermind groups. And that's more if you're a real how-to expert and you can get people online to learn with you or buy your books. But you can also use all that traffic to sell retail items like journals or mugs or hats or anything. I was part of this blogging community called Blog Paws, Paws. And it was like 500 bloggers that just blog about dogs and cats all day long. And they each have their unique spin, like three-legged dogs and blind dogs and rescues and mod cat furniture. It's crazy, but they have a following. And then so you can make money in all these ways. The last way is ad placements, which you can see on Nick's website here. He's got ad placements from Lowe's because coffee and appliances kind of go together, right? And he gets a lot of traffic that Lowe's says, he's getting a lot of traffic. I want to get in front of those people that watch him. Reviews is another huge way to make some money, because if you're getting a lot of traffic and you're writing a review and then you're linking to that product and someone buys it, you get a piece of that action. So these are called money-making websites or money-making blogs, and it is your own business that you control. So what can you earn? Well, the sky's the limit. As you grow your traffic, your income potential grows, and it makes money while you sleep because people are finding it 24/7. So it's really something that, you know, people earn all kinds of different sums. I can't even tell you, but there's one that I know of called WeRateDogs.com, and all they do is Instagram rating dogs. Every dog gets a 10 or above, by the way. But they're making $100,000 a year rating dogs by selling T-shirts and hats and things like that. It's crazy. So the sky's the limit. I don't know, Heather, if you want to jump in on that, but we've got some examples coming up.
We've got some examples coming up, and so I think those are going to be the best illustration of that.
All right, well, let's jump right into those. So we selected 3 bloggers to inspire you, but we know many more, as you'll discover. But these 3 are particularly interesting. The first one is Holly, because she was an AWAI staff member back in the day, and then she wanted to be home with her family and started doing her own thing, and now it's this amazing blog site. And Heather, you know way more about this than I do, so I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about it.
All right. So Holly Hanna, as Pam mentioned, she was part of the AWAI team helping with social media back in the day. But at that time, she was also hard at work launching her blog, which is called The Work at Home Woman. So Holly was a nurse. And when she had her daughter, she realized that she really wanted to be home with her daughter, not working those long hours at the hospital. And she decided not too far into that she loved being home with her daughter, but she also wanted something to challenge her in terms of her intellect. And she wanted to also make some money. So she started looking for ways to make money working from home. And what she found was a lot of garbage, a lot of spam. And so she saw this gap. she knew that there had to be other people like her that wanted to find legitimate, honest ways to make money working at home. And so she started researching those particular opportunities and filling that gap on her blog, letting people know the opportunities that she had vetted, that she had found, and how they could take advantage of those. And it just grew from there. And Holly has grown into just an amazing influencer in the industry. She gets featured in all sorts of household name publications like Real Simple. And she makes a very nice living from this blog through all sorts of different channels. She has sponsored posts on her site. And what happens with a sponsored post is a company basically comes in and says, we'd love you to write about this topic. And then at the end, maybe provide a recommend to our service. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes they just say, we just want to have our name up there as we're sponsoring the post. And so they'll pay Holly to write the post, or they'll write the post and then pay Holly to place the post on her site. She also has affiliate arrangements where she reviews or recommends products. And when people buy those products, she receives a commission. She does use an ad network on her site. And most recently, she started doing some direct sales with planners and other types of printables. So a lot of different ways that you can make money. And one of the best ways to determine your topic is to do what Holly has done, to recognize a gap. If there's something that you're looking for online and you just don't see it out there, there's a really good chance that other people are looking for it as well. And so that might be a really great opportunity for you to launch your own blog.
Yep. And it's interesting looking at this screenshot of her website, all the ads on the right. Mm-hmm. Are totally 100% relevant to the reader.
Yes.
So again, that's by design. Those companies have seen that Holly is talking about things that would resonate with the same people they want to reach. So they're paying her to post ads on her website, which is a way to make money.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if that sounds complicated, there are actually ad networks out there that are very focused on particular industries. And what happens with an ad network is you get kind of almost a third-party arrangement. So you go to the ad network and say, I've got space on my site. And then the ad network says, great, we'll place the ads there for you. Just put that code in there. So it's actually really simple arrangement if you use an ad network. A lot of them, you do have to build up a certain amount of traffic first. But when you pick one that's very focused on the same industry, you end up with these ads that are attractive. That's important. And that are relevant for your audience, which is going to be very important to how well the ad network or the advertisements work to bring in money.
Yep. Okay, now John Morrow is probably one of the most successful bloggers in the world. He has quite a story. He will go ahead. I was going to say he has quite a story. We've had him speak at AWAI events. He's incredibly inspiring, and he is someone who started something called Smart Blogger. So Heather, take it away if you want to talk about him.
All right. So John is amazing. He's one of the most determined and, as Pam said, inspirational people that you'll ever meet in your life. So life has dealt John a pretty rough hand. He has a lot of physical limitations that in his early days, a lot of people kind of thought, well, you're not really going to be able to do much. And John rejected that completely. And he started writing. He actually initially started writing in the financial market or the real estate market or both.
Yep.
One of those two.
Yeah.
What's that?
And copy blogger.
Well, I was going to get to copy blogger.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So he started doing his own writing, and he was good at it, but it wasn't going as well as he wanted to. And actually, when I interviewed John, he was like, man, I think about stuff I wrote back in those days, and I'm just like embarrassed to think about what it was. But his writing was good enough that he did catch the attention of Brian Clark over at Copyblogger, and he ended up writing full time for Copyblogger for a time. He also worked with Neil Patel for a time. The way that I knew John, like to illustrate his sheer determination, Brian gives everybody that he hires at Copyblogger a challenge. He tells them to write 100 headlines a day for 30 days. And so John was like, okay, this is what I do to get to be a better writer. And so every day for 30 days, he sat down and he wrote 100 headlines. And he came back to Brian at the end of the month and he's like, so do you want to look at these? Do you want to review these? And Brian was like, what is that? And John's like, well, you told me to write, 100 headlines for a day for 30 days. And Brian was like, nobody ever actually does that. You did that? And John said, yeah, I did that. And then John went like not just an extra mile, but an extra 11 miles and continued to do that for an entire year. So he wrote 100 headlines a day for an entire year. And John's superpower is being able to write a blog post that goes amazingly viral on social media. He's also really good at writing blog posts that place very well on the search engines. Two different superpowers, but he'll say, people are like, well, you just have this natural, innate talent to be able to write these headlines that get people's attention. And he's like, no, I wrote 36,000 of them in my first year at Copyblogger. That's how I got good. And so he just really set his mind to it. He mastered that writing part. And then while he was working with Brian and with Neil Patel, he also really worked on his networking. And John says these are the two things that actually in the early days of blogging that a blogger is mastering. He says most blogs take about 2 years to take off, but really what they have seen working with people at Smart Blogger is that the bloggers who do have the writing skill and have built a network succeed much faster. And proof in the pudding when John launched Smart Blogger, and he actually launched it initially under a different name, but he put out a challenge to social media, and he said, I'm not going to drop my first post until I have 10,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to see this blog, you've got to subscribe. And this ended up being the biggest blog launch in history at the time. He actually had 13,000 subscribers to his blog before he ever placed his first post. So he's amazingly good at what he does. He's amazingly generous at sharing what he knows. And his story would just inspire anybody.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Now, this is the one that kills me. I love it. It's just so like, what? This woman makes this much money doing this? It's so great. And tell us about Sarah Titus. I'm just loving this whole thing.
Yeah. So Sarah's, she's a wonderful, amazing person. Also very, very generous with her knowledge. And her story actually gets off to a very heartbreaking start. And she had 3 children and her husband just left. And she didn't know what she was going to do. And she was actually faced with the situation where the system was considering removing her children. And she was like, I have to do something. And so she initially started selling things on eBay. So she would go out and she would garage sale and she would find things and she would sell them on eBay. And she was making about $700 a month. And Sarah's superpower is like stretching a budget like nobody can even imagine. And so she was making things work on this $700 a month. And her friends were like, how do you do this? I've got to know, like, what are your budgeting tips? And she had enough friends that were interested in her budgeting tips that she was like, I'm going to post this stuff online. But she didn't actually want to be a blogger. She didn't really want to share that information with anybody she didn't know. So she password protected it. She put it all behind, and she gave the password out to her friends who wanted to see this information. And so she would just every once in a while sit down and write out, kind of one of her budgeting strategies or her planning tips. And she would post it to her blog that was behind this password. And then one day she looked at her traffic and she realized there are way more people visiting this page than I gave passwords out to. And so she reached out to her friends and they were like, yeah, we're giving that password out when people ask us about it. And so at that point, Sarah kind of took it as a sign, because she was looking for a way to build an income that involved helping more people. She wanted to transition out of selling on eBay. And so she took this as a sign and lifted the password protection off of her blog and just went full on into blogging. And now, she makes $3.5 million a year from her blog. She sells printables. She has a course on how to use Shopify. She does all sorts of things. And I love Sarah because her number one advice flies in the face of what you hear from most people. Most people are like, go out and study what other bloggers are doing and then replicate that. And Sarah says, no. She says, I never read another blog on my topic. She says, I do my own thing. And that means that I'm always offering something from a unique perspective. I'm not doing something that's a knockoff of what somebody else is doing. And that's what people love about me. And that's why they follow me. So her belief is to just follow your heart, follow your passion, be your own amazing, weird self. And if you do it consistently, then eventually you will grow that following and good things will happen.
What I love is it's such a cheery website too.
Cheery website. She's just got such a great outlook on life.
Yeah.
Like nothing can get her down. You know, something comes her way and she's like, I'll figure this out.
Yep. Very cool. All right, cool. Now, there are many other people like John, Holly, and Sarah. And, you know, at the end of this program, we'll tell you about a program we created that showcased all of them with their best tips for you. But let's move on for a moment to your 5 top takeaways, Heather. You've been interviewing all of these blogging superstars and combining their wisdom. And, you know, I think that there are 5 top things you can take away from all of that. There's much more in the program we're going to mention, but what are your 5?
Oh, so my 5, the first one, kind of the unifying thread that I saw between here, that I decided to label the secret sauce because I heard it over and over again from all the different successful bloggers that I interviewed, was that this is all about connections. So one of the questions that I hear a lot when it comes to blogging is, you know, this has been a thing for 2 decades, like we've been talking about almost, and maybe it's just too late and the internet's gotten so crowded. And it's true, the internet has gotten more crowded, but the audience has also gotten much, much bigger. So in that way, there is a lot more opportunity. But the way that you work in that crowded space is to put your energy into making connections. You want to make connections with people in related industries to yours, people who are in your industry, and then you really want to be careful to make good connections with the people who start following you. So the trick to making an honest connection is to not do it with an agenda. So when you, like, for instance, if I was in the pet industry and I wanted to meet Pam, because she was also in the pet industry, I wouldn't reach out to Pam and say, hey, I love your blog. Can I guest post on it? I would reach out to Pam and say,
yeah, just ignore them.
right? I would probably reach out to Pam and say, you know, I love your blog. I have found it very helpful. And I just wanted to say thank you. And then I might reach out to her again in a few days and say, you know what, I'm going to send you a connection and request on social media. I hope that you'll accept it. And then I'm just going to have conversations with Pam. It's a very slow burn. And by the time that I'm thinking about maybe asking Pam for some help, she knows me. And it's not an awkward thing anymore. It's going to be very, very natural. And ideally, whatever I'm going to ask Pam for is going to have a big upside win for her as well. So I'm not just going to come to her and say, could you help me out? Even though by that time she would probably know me well enough that she might just say, yeah, I'd be happy to help you out. It might be more something like, you know what, I'm thinking about putting a book together of the top voices in the pet industry. And I was wondering if you would be interested in contributing to that. Which now Pam's like, well, I got to be featured in a book. I can list that on my site. That's going to add credibility. It's going to add to my authority. And it's going to mean basically writing a blog post that's going to go in the book. So yeah, that's something that I can do. So you want to give as much, if not more, than you ask from the people that you make connections with who are influencers in the industry. And then for your audience, even more so, you just want to answer, like one of the people that I interviewed, she says she answered, and Sarah Titus also said this, they answer every single email they get from their followers. Now remember, Sarah Titus is making $3.5 million a year. She has a lot of followers. They answer every single email they get personally, and make sure that they're responding to comments that get left on their site. So this is the big kind of the key factor in succeeding in blogging in this day and age, is to make those connections and to do it honestly. And when you think about it, that's actually the more fun way to do it, because you're just making friends, and that's always good.
You know, I hadn't really thought of it as a people business, but it really is.
Yeah.
Cool. How about earning attention? How do you earn that traffic or that attention?
So earning attention is, that's really what your blog is all about. Danny Einey, who's one of the people that I interviewed, he was very careful to make the point, your blog doesn't actually earn you money. Your blog earns you attention. And then you can take that earned attention and use that to make money. convert that into money. So earning attention really comes down to being yourself, and being yourself comes down to being authentic and also being vulnerable. You've got to let people kind of see who you really are. It also means being present. That means, if you say that you're going to publish your blog every Tuesday, you need to publish your blog every Tuesday. It does mean responding to comments when people are interacting with you on your blog. It does mean having a presence on a social media network or two where your audience is also very present and interacting with people there. And then staying relevant. The longer you blog, the more you get to know your audience. And so relevance becomes easier and easier and easier. But you always want to be offering things to your readers that they're going to find useful and of interest. And that if you do those things, then the attention will come.
All right. Now, you just started to mention this. It'll get easier and easier to write your posts. So how do you practice, or what would you say?
So practicing your craft is really you just got to write. And honestly, the more often you can write, the better you're going to get. And the more often you can publish and hear feedback, the better that you're going to get. So again, Danny has a very analytical way of approaching blogging. And he was talking about this process of improving. And think back to that story I told you about John Morrow and 100 headlines a day every day for a year. And you do just get better. And writing is one of those fascinating things where you get better even without feedback. You'll get better faster with feedback. But even if you just do it every day for a year, say you write, just a 500-word blog post as practice, and you don't even publish any of it and get feedback, doing that act is going to make you a much better writer. Putting it out there and publishing it and letting people give you feedback, it's going to make you better even faster. It's a little bit scary, but the internet is actually a really forgiving place in a lot of ways. And so a lot of the bloggers said, if a blog post doesn't go well, what happens is actually nothing. Like that's the worst day. that's the worst kind of blog post. Nothing happens. If it does go well, people share it, they comment on it, they send you emails telling you how much that you like it. But Danny was talking about how on average, you get a little bit better every time you write and post. And so if you are writing and posting every day, you're going to be getting a little bit better every single day. Now, if that's too much, if that's like, I cannot write and post every single day, that's okay. If you're writing and posting every single week, you're still getting a little bit better every single week. Might take a little bit longer, but that is happening. Same thing with every month. It is going to take longer, but you're still going to get better and better the more you do. And then you want to focus in on the key parts of your craft. That's those headlines and those subheads. Those are really, really important to holding attention and to drawing people into what you're writing. You want to get really good at teasing out stories, seeing stories in your own life, seeing stories in your industry, hearing stories from your followers, and weaving those into your blog posts. Stories are how we remember things. And so the more you use stories, the stickier your posts are going to be, the more people are going to remember you and what you have to say, and the more they're going to come back and see you. And then sticking the landing on your posts. We always want to have a good, satisfying conclusion. So whenever you're writing a blog post, you're making an implied promise in your headline. I don't care what your headline is. There's an implied promise in there. By the end, you want to have provided a satisfying close to that promise. You want to have delivered on that promise in a satisfying way. And part of that is including a strong conclusion. So if you work on this on a consistent, regular basis, you're going to get better and better. And then if you focus in on these things, you're going to see the most return on that investment of time.
Yay. I love that. Good.
Thanks.
Okay. This is one of my favorites. Like
yes.
you said, if something doesn't, resonate, no big deal. You can move on.
Happens. Yep. So again, you don't want to be afraid. And I totally understand being afraid. I really do. I understand being worried that you're going to put something out there and people are going to get mad at you, or somehow you're going to post something and that's going to become like the viral thing. Like, Heather posted this post and it totally flopped, and I'm going to, turn on the news and that's going to be like the headline story. That doesn't actually happen. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are going to happen. And the sooner we can embrace that mistakes are part of the journey, the sooner we're just going to keep taking the next step on that journey. And the great thing about mistakes is you do learn from them. So I get it. I've made a number of mistakes in my career that felt like kind of a punch to the gut. It's just like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe that happened. But once I get over that initial reaction, I kind of step back and I'm like, okay, feelings aside, what can I learn from this? Why did it happen? Could I have foreseen it? How could I have prevented it? And, did I handle it well after it happened? Because some mistakes are not foreseeable, and it's really all in what you do afterwards. And just remember, growth happens over time, and your blog is your sandbox. This is your place to play and to try things and see how they work, which is actually a great segue into my next point. Is to run experiments. And this is whenever we set out to do something new, at least in my experience, I tend to think initially in terms of like success or failure. Like, I'm going to do this thing and this is the result that I want, and that would be a success. And if I don't get that result, then that would be a failure. And I've really tried to readjust that mindset and to think of anything new that I'm trying as running an experiment. And the great thing about an experiment is that it is its own success. The success is what you learn from the experiment. Like, hopefully you get the result that you wanted to see, and that's like a cherry on the cake. But really, you're doing the experiment to find out if that's going to deliver the result or not. And so there is no failure when you're experimenting. You're just always trying new things. You're giving them time to work. And if they work, you're going to embrace them and keep refining them, keep running new experiments with them and getting better and better. And if you realize they don't work, either they're not a good fit for you or it just didn't yield the result that you wanted, then you can just let that one go. Experiment done. The success was that I learned.
What kind of experiment do you mean? Like the approach of a post, or
could be the approach of
a list one versus a story one, or what do you mean by that?
I mean, anything you can think of, honestly. So yeah, exactly what you're saying. It could be, I think that I want to really try being more vulnerable in my posts. And so I'm going to do that for the next 4 posts. In every post, I'm going to share some bit of personal information, not embarrassing, but just enough to make me feel like I'm really putting myself out there. Some bloggers share very embarrassing information. So if that's your cup of tea, you can do that too. Totally fine. And so you do that. And in your mind, you might be thinking, yeah, if I'm just this much more vulnerable, I'm going to get this much more traffic. But I want you to put that metric out of your mind and just say, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. And then at the end, you evaluate. And if you see an uptick in your traffic, if you see more shares, then maybe that's something that you want to keep doing. If you see no change, maybe you realize, I actually feel like I write better this way. And even though it didn't change, I still learned that about myself. So I'm going to still keep doing this. Or maybe there was no change and you're thinking, I hated that, so I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm going to let that go. So that's one way you could experiment. But you can also experiment with the ways that you're monetizing your blog. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about ad networks earlier. And so you may do some research and come up with 3 ad networks that you think would be a really good fit. And maybe you have a really good feeling about one of them. And again, kind of the initial thought process is, I'm gonna build a relationship with this ad network. I'm gonna join it, and my income is going to double in the next month, and it's going to be great. But then you roll it back, and you're like, you know what? This is an experiment. I am going to join this ad network. I'm going to run it for 3 months, and then I'm going to evaluate and see what I've learned. And then you take what you've learned after 3 months, and it's not, maybe it was super successful and you did double your income, and that's great. But if you go into it with this experiment mindset that you're just going to learn something new, it does take a lot of that fear out of things, because we can take the fear of failure off the table. Because like I said, with experiments, we're always successful.
Yep. Cool. Okay. With those, now we've given you a lot of information to think about, and you may be very excited right now. So we put together some next steps if you really want to dive in and figure all this out and become a blogging pro. So the first one is, we have a bunch of free information that you can check out to see if this truly is something that you could pursue. If you go onto awai.com, as shown on the right, and just type the word blog into our search box, you'll find a whole bunch of articles and other resources on blogging. And I pulled out 4 of them in the links on the left. And to quickly answer your question, yes, this will be reposted. So don't go crazy trying to write everything down right this minute. You can look for these posts afterwards if you'd like. But these are 4 blog posts. I think Heather wrote a couple of them. Some other people wrote others. But they're really great to go a little deeper on the subject and see, you know, what it could mean for you. So I pulled those out. And then the next thing is, ta-da! We finally, I'm so excited because this year we got this new blogging program out, and Heather was an amazing leader in pulling together because, you know, we talked to a lot of different bloggers, and it was kind of a challenge to rein in all of their wisdom, but Heather took it upon herself to do that. And why don't you tell us about that, Heather?
So when AWAI approached me to do this program, it was kind of like I said at the beginning, my first response was, but I'm not a blogger. Why would you want me to do this program? And they were like, so you do blog for us. Remember, you have Wealthy Web Writer and you publish there every week. That is a blog. So you do have the experience. And I was like, okay, but I still wouldn't look at myself as a leader in the industry. And they said, we understand, but what we want you to do is go out and interview leaders in the industry. And then because you are very good at distilling the information and teaching, we want you to take what you've learned and make a program for us. And so when they put it in that light, I was like, ooh, okay, this sounds fun. It's totally something I could do. So I did. I went out and interviewed 10 different bloggers. They make 6 figures or 7 figures. They're in a wide range of industries. You know, we have people in the marketing industry. We have people in the financial. We have people in work at home, like Holly. We have somebody in the pet industry. We have another person who is in the food industry. So just a very, very wide range of bloggers. And they're all making money in different ways. Like some are offering their own courses, and some are using sponsored posts and ad networks, and some are offering printables, like I mentioned, and a lot of them are doing affiliate deals. So I interviewed them on everything from whether or not it really makes sense to start a blog right now. The answer was consistently yes. To how did they choose their topic and what are things that you should think about then about that, to how do you make sure that you're writing well for your blog? How do you get an audience? How do you work with social media? And then how do you monetize? And so we talked a lot about the different ways that you can earn money from your blog. And so this is a video program. It's generally me talking to you about the things that I learned from these different bloggers. And I take you through it step by step, from, you know, picking your topic to the things you need to know to launch. This program is very much focused on the writing and the monetization, not the technical aspect, but we do tell you how to find the resources you need to handle that technical stuff. And that's technical stuff is a lot less scary than you might think. Yeah. We talk about the writing, we talk about the audience building, and then we talk about the monetization. And most of these videos are under 20 minutes. And so, you know, you can kind of just sit down in the morning and listen to one and then do a little bit of work that afternoon to implement that step. And before you know it, you'll have a blog up and going, and you'll be adding to it consistently. And if you stick with it over the long term, and that's the biggest thing about blogging, is just sticking with it over the long term, you will hit a snowball point and realize, wow, I have all this traffic. I have this huge audience. And that's when things get really fun.
Yay! I love it. It's so much fun. It's a wonderful program. And if you have an interest, there's a link at the bottom to a special deal for people listening to this session. We'll also, again, post the replay so that you can find this again if you need to. But if you want to jot that down, it's pretty quick and simple. Before I jump into my final tip of the day, which is, ready, drum roll, go after those opportunities. Yeah. So Heather talked about, you know, writing your own blog and building your own business as a blog, but you also, in the meantime, while that's growing and building, you can work for other clients as a blogger and really get good at it. So these are just a few jobs on flexjobs.com. Blog posts, blog writer job postings are on all kinds of different job sites, like FlexJobs, Simply Hired is one, Indeed.com. LinkedIn has job postings. And then we have a website, if you're an AWAI member, called directresponsejobs.com. And if you're a member there, you can find jobs for bloggers as well. And sometimes it's not just blog writing needed. You'll find out that it's part of a bunch of needs that a company may have. But if you're really good at blogging, it is such a great way to get your foot in the door with any company. So with that, I wanted to end the slideshow and open up the floor for questions from the audience. And Heather and I'll be here to answer those. So let me get rid of that. Okay. And stop sharing. And it's just us and Fran. Hi, Fran. If you have questions, Fran Tignor is our technical genius behind all of these webinars that we do. And we're so grateful to have her here. She's going to be feeding us the questions today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pam and Heather. First of all, that was a great presentation. I think we're getting a lot of thank yous in the Q&A across our various platforms. So thank you guys so much for your time. They did just want me to remind everyone that URL, if anyone's looking for it, it's right on your screen there. It's going to be awai.com/howtoblog. So it should be nice and easy to remember. I did just want to throw that up for you guys one more time. And now let's go ahead and dive into questions. So we've been getting a lot of great questions across the board on your presentation here. And we're going to start off with one from Eric. Just have to find it here. Hi, Eric. Eric's tuning in from our YouTube channel. And he's wondering, how do we become good at being the best source for your client blogs, for your clients' blogs, excuse me. And can you recommend any programs in AWAI to supplement our abilities to get good sources for blogging?
Well, so the program that Heather was talking about is an excellent starting point for sure. And a lot of times, ask your clients, like what is it that their customers ask about on a regular basis, or their prospects? You know, what are the salespeople? What kind of questions are the salespeople at that company fielding every day when they go out and talk to potential customers or current customers? Those are gold for writing blog posts that matter. So let's say what I did for that veterinary company, people would say, you know, one of the biggest issues is ergonomics. They're lifting heavy dogs into bathtubs every day, and it's really getting their backs out of joint. You know, can you write something about that? And they were like, well, yes, because we happen to invent a whole different type of tub where it has a step-in thing with a door and you never have to lift a dog again. So it was like, oh my God, I can't wait to write about that. So your client is going to give you lots of ideas on that. And Heather, I don't know if you want to jump in too.
I am going to jump into another great way to become the best source for your clients' blogs is to focus in on a niche. When you focus in on a niche and you stay up to date and informed in what's happening in that particular niche, then you're always going to be ready to bring ideas to the table, and you're going to be well versed in the audience and their language and what needs that they have, which is going to make you just invaluable in terms of being a blogger for your clients.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The next question we have for you guys is from James. And James is asking, Pam and Heather, what are some of the things we need to keep in mind about our tax obligations as freelance writers with clients?
So I'm not a CPA. I'm not an accountant. All the disclaimers. Really, the biggest thing is just to track your income and to track your business expenses. Keep a separate account for that business income and for those business expenses. If you do that, then whether you decide to file your own taxes at the end of the year or hire somebody, you're going to have the information that you need to be able to do that in compliance with what the government wants from you.
Yeah, and you know, I actually write my accountant's newsletter and trade for him doing my taxes, which 25 years now. The thing is, every state is different. So we highly and strongly recommend that you talk with an accountant in your state or who understands the laws in your state, because they can vary so much. And whether you decide to be a sole proprietor versus an LLC and all that kind of stuff, you need someone who understands the laws in your area to help guide you. So we never get involved in that because we can't know what's happening in every state, or if you're in Canada or, you know, Europe. It really depends on where you are. So we always recommend talking to a professional in that area.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is coming from Balaka on our Facebook page. Balaka's wondering, how do you get traffic to your new money-making website?
Oh, so that is a topic that we cover quite in depth in the blogging program. And there are a lot of things that you can do. The number one thing, though, is to focus in on the things that your audience is looking for, and then to write to those things very clearly. And that's going to help Google recognize that you've got the answer that somebody is looking for when they do a keyword search. But then also, using social media to distribute what you've got to your audience. If you're writing on business, you'd want to share what you're writing over on LinkedIn. If you're writing about travel, you're probably going to share that over on Instagram. But knowing where your audience is and sharing it in those social channels is also a good way to attract traffic.
Yeah, and I think that, look, that example with Holly Hanna and the work-at-home woman, as Heather said, she saw a gap and filled the gap. And there are lots of people who had the same question she did about how can I be a stay-at-home mom and make a living. So again, resonating with that audience and understanding who the audience is and what they are looking for is number one. Like we always say at AWAI, know your prospect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. That makes sense. This question might be a bit more for Heather because she was touching on this at the beginning. But how do you launch your book online?
Okay. So I am a self-published author. Amazon actually makes it super simple. So if you sign up, they recently combined, they used to have two separate publishing, one for digital and one for print. They've recently combined those, so it's all under one roof. You really just need to make sure that your book is formatted how you want it to be formatted, and that you have a cover image that is formatted the way that Amazon recommends. And then when you upload those files, they'll put it all together and add it to that. Now, there are a lot of services out there. I'm very focused on Amazon, but they're certainly not the only self-published bookseller out there. You can also publish on Barnes & Noble. And there are several others that I feel like I should be able to list off the top of my head, but that's just not happening for me at the moment. But it actually is a simpler process than you might think. I mean, once the book is edited and clean and ready to go, it is just a matter of making sure you get that cover image put together and then uploading the files, and then whatever service you're using usually compile those files for you. And if somebody orders a print version, they print it on demand and send it out.
And they usually have tutorials and things like that to help you, right? Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Perfect. Awesome. The next question we have is from EG. And hi, EG. EG is wondering, if I want to transition into another niche, should the blog feature that?
It depends on the situation. So if you're blogging for your writing business and you're already focused on a single niche, and now you're looking at expanding into two niches, that can be difficult to position, but it can certainly be done. And if you're trying to do it all on one site, then I would say, yes, your blog should feature that. If you are doing, though, a blog that is more designed to be the business itself, I would keep that very narrowly topically focused.
Yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Then we have a question actually piggybacking off of EG's question from Catherine. Catherine Ann is wondering, if the niche is so different and doesn't fit with the current title or theme of the blog, should we establish another blog and be working on multiple blogs at a time? Or is there a better way of handling that, especially if we want to write for both niches?
We have a lot of members who don't want to just pick one focus, and that's fine. Elise Bennon, who teaches a lot about marketing yourself on LinkedIn, said, no one's going to say, what, they work in travel and wine? Oh my, I'll never hire them. No, it's okay, especially if there's synergy. If there's synergy and you have your own website, like if I had petcopywriter.com and I wanted to write for the pet food industry specifically, but I also wanted to write for veterinary equipment, there's some synergy there. It's all about pets. Now, if they're like, whoa, completely different, that's trickier. And I think you'd have to really just think about who you're trying to attract, and will that divergence confuse them? Or is there a way you can explain it? And then it makes better sense. It just so depends on what you're talking about as the two different niches.
It really does. And I'll weigh in on that because despite my strong belief and recommendation that you choose a niche and focus on it, I'm terrible at niching myself, guys. I'm awful at it. What I am good at, though, is specializing in a certain service. And so I specialize in UX copywriting. So my site is all about my developing site. It's not launched yet, but it's all about UX copywriting, and that's what the focus is. And then how I deal with the different niches that I might want to work in is I use that to target my outreach marketing. So if I'm researching companies that I want to get to know, and I have two diverse niches, in my case, software as a service and alternative health, there's no crossover there, like zero. But I'll use that to focus in on my own research on the clients that I'm going to share my blog posts with, or that I might send emails to. And then in those contacts, because they're one-to-one contacts, I can add some specific information about my knowledge and background in the niche and how I think UX copywriting could help them succeed in what they're doing. And then when I direct them to my site, because I've mentioned UX copywriting, there's no disconnect. It's because the site's all about UX copywriting. So I use the niche to develop the bond in my one-to-one interactions, but then I focus my site on my specialty. So that's an option too. I will say I don't think that is effective as pulling in traffic as niching specifically. But like I said, I'm just not good at that.
Awesome. Well, that makes sense, Heather. And actually, I believe Allow on our Facebook has a similar question of, I seem to be interested in quite a number of niches. How do I really narrow down to just one or two? Do you have any tips on that?
I'll field that one. Now we have, I don't know if you've checked this out yet, but Inside AWAI, if you go to awai.com and just put in the search Inside AWAI, you're going to find all these sessions that we do. We do one once a month on different topics of interest to freelance writers, but there are a couple on choosing a niche. And one of those advocates start with what you know. If you have a career background in a field that you wouldn't mind writing in, you already have a leg up and connections probably that will get you going much quicker. If you have a personal hobby or interest, you're an avid gardener, landscaper, and you want to write for that industry, you already know that market. So it's the easiest way, start with what you know. Now, if you don't want to write about those and you want to jump into something like alternative health, but you haven't really been in that world, you can quickly get up to speed by reading journals and joining associations and getting magazines in that field, but trying to start using products and stuff, see how they market themselves. But the first thing is to just think about your background, your interests, and that Inside AWAI session walks you through all of that step by step. So I hope that helps.
Perfect. Thank you, Pam. E.G. had another question today. She was wondering, how do you determine when to post? Is the day time of these as important as other social media metrics like Facebook or Instagram?
It's generally not as important as the metrics that you see on social media and Facebook. So that, depending on when your audience is responding on the social media networks, that might influence when you post, just because it might influence when you want to distribute that post to social media. Beyond that, because it just lives on your site, it's not like social media where it tends to go away really fast, kind of get pushed down by the other things. It really does, I think, depend on what works best in terms of your schedule. But I also am a big advocate of testing things. And so you might try posting at different times of the day or different times of the week to see if that does have any impact on your traffic.
Good. Testing is always good.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is just a nice comment from Tina. Tina says that she has the blog program and it's awesome. Heather's one of the best, like Pam, at delivering these programs.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Tina. We love you.
Awesome. Just looking for another question here for you guys. Kind of on the niche route. Is there a niche for people who have lived under a rock, as Eric says, in their adult life?
Rock climbing, I think, would be a perfect niche.
Yes, you're not alone. No matter what you do, you're not alone. Honestly, I mean, there is a niche for every human being, and there's a fan group. I mean, there are some crazy things that I've heard about over the years. There's a not just microbrewing, but microbrewing with Norwegian wheat. I mean, there's crazy, very specific niches for everybody. And living under a rock your entire life, gosh, I bet you're not the only one.
Even when you're under a rock, you have interests. So
Yeah.
just think about what you're interested in and run with that.
I love that.
Love it. That's awesome. And this might be a bit more on the technical side, but Kelsey's wondering, how do you create the blog website?
And that's a common question. And like I said, this program is really focused in on the writing side of the blogging. But as I also mentioned, the tech side doesn't have to be as scary as we tend to think it is. And the questions that I answer for you in the program are, how to pick your domain name and, what you need to be thinking about there. The questions you need to ask and consider when you're choosing a hosting service for your site. That's the service that's going to kind of keep your site there on a server box somewhere, and then when somebody tries to find the address, puts it out there for them to see. And then I talk also about whether it makes sense to build your site yourself or to hire somebody to do it. I tend to fall into the I would rather hire somebody to do it camp. But this really comes down to a question of, do you have more time than money or more money than time? If you have more money than time, hire somebody to do it. If you have more time than money, go the DIY route. And then I give you some questions to ask there to help you choose the best DIY web service out there. And there are quite a few that are pretty easy to use.
That's great, Heather. Thank you. Stephanie has a great follow-up question for that. Just would you have any platforms that you would recommend for hosting a blog?
I would say WordPress just immediately. I think that is the best one to do, but that one also has the biggest learning curve. And so I would lean toward that one if you are going to be able to hire somebody to help you get that launched. If you are not going to hire somebody, if you are going to do it yourself, I would take a close look at Wix, and I would take a close look at Squarespace and see how those look for you.
Yeah, there are lots of free or low cost, super easy get started, and you can try those and then migrate over to something more sophisticated when you're ready. But she said Wix and Squarespace. There's also another one I'm not thinking of right now. But isn't there still ProBlogger or Blogger? I don't know.
I think Blogger got folded into a company. Another great way when you are just starting out, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, and say you're writing faster than you're handling the tech stuff, but you're eager to get published, look at Medium and look at LinkedIn. They both have publishing services. And so you can start to build your audience, and then you can start to build up that buzz for when you launch your own site and kind of immediately have a following. So that's another really easy to do thing. But I wouldn't recommend that you have your blog live at those places. You do want to own your website real estate.
Awesome. That makes total sense. Thanks, Heather. Colleen on our Facebook is wondering, do you have recommendations for building a personal blog for multiple niches like accounting, wellness?
If you can find an umbrella that comfortably encompasses the multiple niches that you have, that's the approach I would take. Otherwise, I would pick your favorite one and I would start with that. I would get a feel for the bandwidth that's going to take. And then once you get really comfortable with that, you'll be able to evaluate with a lot of data whether or not you have the bandwidth to launch a second one. Better to have one really well tended, really well done blog than two blogs that kind of suffer from a little bit of neglect.
Awesome. Thank you. And this is a really great question from Brenda on our YouTube. Brenda's wondering, how do I get assignments with no experience? I see a lot of posts on here that require experience.
A couple ideas is write your own blog. Like on your website, if you're writing a blog, you have experience, right? Another one is reach out to journals and other industry organizations that could use some help, even nonprofits. They may not have a lot of money, but if you just say, hey, can I blog, once a month for you for 6 months just to get my name out there and get a byline and an example, they'd probably be thrilled, right? And they might even pay you. But a lot of times we'll say, start with what you can do maybe for free just to get that momentum and traction going. A third idea is to blog for a business Maybe there's a local business, a coffee shop, or a doggy daycare, or anything. They probably don't have any time to do this at all. And they may pay you a small amount of money, but it's a great way to get some traction going. So there are 3 options for you.
Yeah. I love all those ideas. And then I'm also going to speak to those posts that require experience. A lot of times the posts that we see on a job board are written by a human resources person, but that is not the person, if it's a freelance position, that's actually going to hire you. It's a marketer that's going to hire you. And so the human resources person kind of just puts in what they're used to putting in terms of any job posting. And so if you see a post and you're like, I can totally do this. I have the background in this industry. I have the knowledge. I love this industry. I know I can do this. Apply for it. Focus on your strengths and just see what happens. If nothing else, that in itself is good practice.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The next question we have is from Crystal. Crystal is wondering, what kind of sources should I be looking for if I was interested in writing blogs on single parents caring for disabled loved ones or what they're going through? But really, how do I find sources for what to be looking for?
Google is where I would start. I would just start reading up on other blogs. I might look at Amazon and check out some books there. I might see if there were some magazines on that topic as well and start getting those. But if you have personal experience in this niche, or people that you can talk to that have very personal experience in this niche, I would fall back on Sarah Titus's advice and say, really start to do your own thing. The other thing that can bring a lot of interest and value and a very unique perspective to your blog is if you reach out into your community to professionals in the healthcare industry that support these caregivers and see if you can't interview them from time to time. That's going to add so much authority and usefulness and relevance to the blog posts that you write.
And I would add to that a couple of things. So national associations like NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, and other associations like that have all kinds of information and stories. But as far as reputable resources, they would certainly be out there. Social media, of course, if you can find some groups on Facebook that talk about raising children with disabilities, I bet you find all kinds of things about what parents are going through. So there's tons of stuff out there.
Yeah, good suggestions. Thanks, Pam.
Awesome stuff. On our Facebook, another question is, what are some other ways to earn from your blog website except for placing ads or advertising on it?
There are actually quite a number of ways. So after placing ads, sponsored content is becoming a very big way of earning money from your blog. And this is where a company essentially pays you to write a post, and then they have their, this post sponsored by Wix, or this post sponsored by, whoever. So they get a kind of share in your halo of authority on the issue. So that's pretty big. The people that are making the most money from blogging that I interviewed are typically creating their own courses and selling those. Or they are creating their own products, books, printables, that kind of thing, and they are selling those.
Yep.
So that's just to name a few.
Like if you go back and look at that, or if you go to sarahtitus.com, you can see that she sells planners and other things, recipe collections, things like that she created herself, and that's how she's making some of her money.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Up next for you guys, I know it probably depends on a lot of variables, but do you have any insight on how much traffic is needed to start earning from a money-making blog?
It does depend on a lot of variables. One being how targeted your traffic is, like how high quality the traffic is. One of the things that every blogger will tell you is to start building an email list as soon as you can. And then typically with an email list, for every person that's on your email list, if you are taking steps to monetize your blog, you can kind of count on average earning about $1 per name per month. So if you have 1,000 people who have subscribed to your email list, then chances are you'll average out earning about $1,000 per month from your blog using that email list. That is the more identifiable benchmark. Like you said, the other ones really, they depend on like the ad networks, which ad network you're signed up for, and they all pay different amounts, and then what kind of affiliate products are you offering and how much do those pay. But yeah, I like to use the email metric to just kind of zero that in a little bit more. Pam, do you have thoughts on that?
No, not really. I've heard so many different, measurements. It's hard to pinpoint. I mean, you could Google that question and find all kinds of different answers. It just depends. It also depends on what it is you're offering. If it's something that's super narrow niched, but lots of people are looking for that, like let's say you are, one I've seen is like a deck building kit, and you can order this deck building kit online, believe it or not, and they teach you on their blog how to do it. So if that's reaching those people, that narrow group of people who want to do that, and they're ready to buy a kit when they arrive at you could be making money like overnight. Who knows? So the variables are like all over the place. It just depends on who you're trying to reach, what are you trying to sell, or market or review or lead to, and how interested that person is in buying versus just learning. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all over the place.
It really is.
Yeah.
Great. And then from there, Betty is wondering, once you identify a company that would like to advertise on your blog, how do you approach the company to do this?
So in that case, you're getting into the space of selling your ad space on your site direct, which is kind of a less common way to do things. It's certainly a viable way to do things. It does take more time on your part to manage. But I would put together a data sheet of your blog talking about, how much traffic you get a month, how many subscribers that you have, what the topic is about, and if you've been doing other advertising, what kind of results that has delivered for those advertisers. And then I would send that along with a very friendly letter just saying, you seem like a really good match for our audience. Our audience is definitely looking for what you offer. We do have ad space available. You would have that, we have a data sheet for you to reference. If you're interested, please let's set up a contact and see what we can do.
Yeah, it was interesting when I was part of Blog Pause. They used to have an annual conference. They folded since then, and it's a shame because it was a really cool organization. But at the annual conference, there were companies, pet companies there, giving product samples away to bloggers because they want to reach the same people the bloggers are reaching. So that was pretty amazing because I just kind of walked through, there's some free food and free like leashes and collars and toys and stuff. So if you're lucky enough to be in a blogging community like that in a particular niche, who knows, like might be a bunch of barbecue sauce bloggers out there getting free barbecue sauce if they blog about the products. But one of them that was my favorite was the modern cat furniture blogger. And she would get free samples of products to review. So she had a whole house full of this really cool mid-century modern cat furniture. So it just depends on the industry you're in, of course.
Yeah. Another way to handle that is so many companies have a setup where they can offer affiliate links to you, which means if somebody makes a purchase from that affiliate link, that you would get a commission on that. So you can also do research with the company to see if they have an affiliate program. And then rather than reaching out to them to see, will you advertise on my site, you can sign up for their affiliate program, and then you can write reviews of their products that then link off to the product as an affiliate arrangement. The one thing that you do have to be really careful about when you do that is you do need to mention in the post or somewhere on your site that's easy to find that certain links do go to affiliate products and that you do receive a commission if they choose to purchase from that link. But that's another way to do that as well.
Perfect, Heather. And you kind of touched on Betty's follow-up question here, which was having a company advertise is different from affiliate marketing. How would you do this? Is it the same way?
And generally speaking, it's actually a little bit more straightforward when a company has an affiliate program. You can just kind of do the research to see if they have that affiliate program. And then a lot of times they just have a little application form that you can fill out. And then they'll send you the details that you need to set up the affiliate account. And you just kind of go from there.
Awesome. And I do see one more question here for you guys. I believe their name is Jiten. I hope I'm saying that right. He's asking, what are the requirements of writing a blog without knowing the knowledge of how to write a blog at this moment?
So one of the things that I actually cover in the program in pretty good detail is the nuances of writing a blog. I talk about some of the proven formulas that you can use to write your blog posts. I also talk about proven headline structures that work very well to get attention. I do talk about how to write stories, how to identify stories, and how to weave them into your blog. I talk about the basic things that you want to include in a blog and how to go about doing those. So that is all covered in the blog program. And then beyond that, it really is just a matter of practice, feedback, and you'll get better and better.
Perfect. So that is the last question I see for now. Thank you both so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Very much fun.
Right.
Heather, you did a fantastic job. Thank you, Heather.
Oh, well, so did you. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be up here talking with you. I always appreciate your insights.
Yay. All right, guys. So this will be posted. The replay will be posted if you ever want to go back to it. But I hope you get out there and are inspired to blog. So many good reasons to just jump in and give it a try. And with that, we'll sign off. We're going to have a new topic next month. So stay tuned to Inside AWAI. As always, we'll see you next time. Thank you, Fran, too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.